Welcome back to Grow My Sense. In today's video, we're diving deep into one of the most significant global events in recent history, the US-China tariff wars. You've probably heard a lot about it, but do you know all the important facts? If not, don't worry. Today we'll break down 10 key facts you need to know about this economic clash. So, grab a seat and let's get started. 10 facts about the US-China tariff wars. Fact 1. What are tariffs? First things first. What exactly are tariffs? Tariffs are taxes placed on goods imported or exported between countries. Simply put, when one country imposes tariffs, it raises the cost of products coming into the country. The idea behind this is to make foreign goods more expensive, encouraging consumers to buy domestically produced items instead. But when tariffs are imposed on both sides, it can lead to higher prices for everyone. This is exactly what happened with the US-China tariff wars. Fact 2. Why did the US start the trade war? In 2018, President Donald Trump launched the tariff war against China. The US had a massive trade deficit with China, meaning the US was importing much more from China than it was exporting. This imbalance was one of the major reasons Trump decided to act. But there were also other issues. The US accused China of unfair trade practices like intellectual property theft, forced technology transfers, and currency manipulation. The tariffs were meant to pressure China into making changes, but they also escalated into a full-blown economic confrontation. Fact number 3. Impact on the US economy. So how did the tariffs affect the US? Well, on the surface, it seemed like the US was protecting its businesses and jobs. But in reality, US consumers started feeling the sting. Everyday goods like electronics, clothes, and food became more expensive as tariffs increased. Small businesses that relied on cheap Chinese imports were especially hit hard. The costs were passed on to you, the consumer. Fact 4. Impact on China's economy. On the other hand, China also suffered. Their exports to the US fell sharply, and many companies faced higher production costs. In fact, China's economic growth slowed during this period. The government responded by devaluing their currency, the yuan, to try to offset the impact. Still, the tariffs put a strain on China's economy, particularly in industries like electronics, agriculture, and manufacturing. Fact number 5. The trade deficit issue. One of the key reasons the tariffs were imposed was to address the trade deficit between the two countries. In 2017, the U.S. trade deficit with China hit nearly $375 billion. This massive imbalance was seen as problematic for the U.S. economy. Trump argued that China's trade practices were at the heart of this, and the tariffs were his way of forcing China to buy more U.S. goods and open up its markets. Fact 6. Retaliation, China's response. But China didn't just stand by. They retaliated with their own tariffs on U.S. goods, especially targeting agricultural products like soybeans, pork, and wheat. This was a direct hit on American farmers, who were some of the hardest hit by the trade war. In fact, many farmers were forced to look for alternative markets like Europe and South America to sell their goods. But it wasn't easy, and it led to significant losses. Fact 7. The Phase 1 deal, a temporary ceasefire. Fast forward to January 2020, when both the US and China agreed to a Phase 1 trade deal. This deal saw China agree to purchase more American products, especially agriculture, and pledge to strengthen protections for intellectual property. In exchange, the US reduced some of the tariffs. It was a step towards easing tensions, but it didn't resolve all the issues. The big problems like technology transfer and government subsidies were left untouched. Fact 8. Long-term effects on global supply chains. One of the long-term impacts of the tariff war was the disruption to global supply chains. Many companies that had relied on cheap Chinese manufacturing began to shift their operations elsewhere. Countries like Vietnam, India, and Mexico became popular alternatives for U.S. companies looking to avoid tariffs. While this helped diversify supply chains, it also led to higher costs for manufacturers who had to switch production locations. Fact 9. Effect on global trade relationships. The tariff war didn't just affect the US and China. It had ripple effects on global trade. Many countries and companies found themselves caught in the middle, facing higher costs and uncertainty. For example, European countries and Japan were both impacted as their exports to China and the US became more expensive. In fact, it even led to more trade talks and negotiations on a global scale as countries scrambled to adjust. Fact number 10, the ongoing trade tensions. Despite the Phase 1 deal, tariffs are still in place on a wide range of goods from China. The overall relationship between the US and China remains tense, and the global economy continues to adjust. While the US has reduced some tariffs, many are still at record highs, and both countries are continuing to find ways to strengthen their own economies, often at the expense of each other. Thanks for watching. So there you have it, 10 key facts about the US-China tariff wars. We've only scratched the surface, and as these two economic giants continue to battle it out, we can expect more changes in global trade dynamics. What do you think? Will the tariffs ever end? Or is this just the beginning of a new global economic order? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more easy-to-understand financial videos here on at Grow My Sense. See you next time.